We end the month of September on the channel by going into the world of Pokemon, as at the channel point's request of James, we're going to look at Pokemon Detective Pikachu, released in 2019. Detective Pikachu is classified as a mystery film and was directed by Rob Letterman, who also directed Shark Tale, which as we all know, is the greatest animated film of all time. It is also very loosely adapted from a video game of the same name, released in 2016. The film centers around a young man named Tim looking to see what happened to his father, until he finds his father's former Pikachu, which for some reason can talk, but only he can understand it. And together he and Pikachu set out to see what exactly happened to his dad Harry. The film starred Ryan Reynolds and also included Justice Smith, Catherine Newton, Suki Waterhouse, Ken Watabe, and Rita Ora. In addition to being the first ever live-action Pokemon film, this is the first time Nintendo had done a live-action film of one of their franchises since the Super Mario Bros. Movie in 1993. It got mixed to positive reviews from critics and made a boatload of money at the box office. On a budget of $150 million, it made back $434. And it was just short of being the highest grossing video game film adaptation, as the Warcraft film, which apparently sucked, made $439 million. Also, before the release there was planned to be a sequel, but it was revealed last year that is now unlikely to happen. So we'll just have to look at this one. Were Tim and Pikachu able to find Harry? Well, let's find out right now as we look at Pokemon Detective Pikachu, released in 2019. So our film begins with the most powerful Pokemon in the world, Mewtwo, breaking free of and destroying some kind of research facility. Mewtwo appears to be chasing a car, which it blasts off the road and seemingly destroys. Meanwhile, we meet Tim Goodman and his friend Jack, who are out hunting Pokemon. They stumble upon a crying Cubone, which Jack reveals is actually for Tim, as he's worried about Tim, as Tim's the only one in town who doesn't have a Pokemon. Tim's not interested, but he reluctantly goes after the Cubone, which is not very interested in being caught, and yeah, it doesn't go well. Tim then gets a call that there was a car accident involving his dad. Turns out his dad is a detective in Rhyme City, and he was the one in the car blasted off the road by Mewtwo. Rhyme City is a city where Pokemon and humans live in harmony and was founded by Howard Clifford alongside help from his son Roger. After arriving, Tim meets Detective Hideo Yoshida, a fellow police detective and friend of his father. And it's revealed during the conversation between the two that Tim didn't know his father very well and in fact hadn't actually seen him in years. Tim then goes to his dad's apartment, which outside he meets a junior reporter named Lucy Stevens, who seems desperate for a story, and also she has a Psyduck. Tim enters the apartment and finds some sort of purple gas which he accidentally releases out the window, which makes some Apom outside the window go apeshit. He then sits in a room that his dad made for him and has flashbacks about how his mom died and he had the opportunity to go live with his dad, but he didn't want to. He then hears some rustling from the living room and oh, it's a Pikachu in a hat that can talk and he can understand it, which understandably freaks him the fuck out. Before he has enough time to process this information though, they're attacked by all the rapid Apom. The Apom chase them onto the roof and they're forced to dive for the garbage vent to escape. After getting some new pants and coming to grips with the reality that he's the only one that can understand this Pikachu, he finds from the hat that this was actually his dad's partner. Pikachu has unfortunately lost all his memory, and all that he knows is that he was Harry's partner, and he needs to find out where he is. Pikachu also tells Tim that Harry is definitely alive and not dead, as they never found the body, and Pikachu survived the car crash even though he was also reported dead. Tim then reluctantly makes a pact with Pikachu to go to the police in the morning. However, that next morning, after Pikachu has drunken much coffee, decides that they can't go to the police and they need to do this themselves. Tim remembers about Lucy and about how she may have had a lead on his father, so he goes to the newsroom to meet her. There they see Howard and Roger Clifford, who just filmed something for the Pokemon parade that's upcoming, and turns out they don't get along very well, and also Roger is super a dick to Lucy. Tim has brought that vial of purple gas, which is just labeled R, to Lucy, and turns out she has some herself. And all she knows is apparently it is coming from the docks, which is where Tim and Pikachu go next. Apparently Harry had an informant on the docks, and they find said informant, which is revealed to be a Mr. Mime. After Tim plays the mime game for a bit, he's able to coax out of the Pokemon that the R gas comes from somewhere called the Roundhouse. And the Roundhouse is revealed to be an illegal underground Pokemon battling place. And upon arriving, Tim and Pikachu are stalked by some purple hair lady who seems to know exactly who they are. They're also noticed by the owner of the establishment, Sebastian, who is not happy to see them, as apparently Harry and Pikachu were there before, and Pikachu absolutely wrecked his Charizard. He then demands a rematch, and in exchange, he'll tell Tim all he wants to know about Harry. Only two problems with this rematch. Number one, Charizard is way hopped up on a bunch of R-gas, and number two, Pikachu can't remember how his powers work. As a result of this, Tim ends up getting involved in the fight, which means Sebastian does too, and after Tim and Sebastian get knocked down, all the R-gas that was in Sebastian's coat spills into the arena, making everybody go apeshit. During this, Tim presses Sebastian, who reveals that he told Harry that the R-gas comes from some sort of doctor, and that's all he knows. There's still a matter of the enraged Charizard. Oh wait, never mind, it snapped out of it. Although a Magikarp has now just evolved into a Gyarados, and they all get blasted out of the building. The police then raid, and they are arrested and taken to Detective Yoshida. Tim tries to convince Yoshida that his dad is still alive, but Yoshida shows him footage of the crash, and is like, dude, nobody could have survived that. Well, Tim and Pikachu are obviously super depressed at these developments, but Tim vows to find out what happened to Pikachu's memory. That mysterious lady from the club with pink hair then shows up again and takes them to the office of Howard Clifford. Howard Clifford then reveals that Harry is in fact still alive and that he was working for Howard. He warns Tim that his son Roger is actually the one behind the creation of the R-gas, and also shows him through hologram footage that Harry was abducted by Mewtwo. Tim and Pikachu then meet up with Lucy and Psyduck, and they decide to head off to the facility which Mewtwo broke out of. They arrive and then cut through the fence to get inside, unaware that they're being watched by security cameras. They go inside the abandoned facility and find some Greninjas and Torterras that have been experimented on. Unbeknownst to them, however, Roger and a crew are on their way and watching them on the security cam. Lucy and Tim then split up, and Roger unleashes the Greninja right behind Lucy. Tim and Pikachu then find another hologram and see how Mewtwo broke free. They go back to day one of the hologram, however, and it's revealed that Harry was actually working with the doctor there to help capture Mewtwo. Tim and Pikachu then have to free Lucy and Psyduck from the Greninja, and they all escape through the Torterra room. But they've got some more issues, as turns out the world is collapsing? What the hell's going on? Well, turns out the world is not what they thought they were. Turns out what they are on is actually a giant Torterra. During trying to escape, however, Pikachu is struck by a rock and gravely injured. They dive into the water and wash up, where it looks like Pikachu's about to die, until a Bulbasaur shows up. Tim pleads with the Bulbasaur for help, and more Bulbasaurs show up, and they all lead Tim and Pikachu apparently to a healer. That healer is revealed to be Mewtwo, which actually does heal Pikachu. And then Mewtwo reveals that apparently it was Pikachu's duty to bring Tim to him. Mewtwo then shows him a flashback which makes it look like Pikachu actually betrayed Harry. However, before they can see the full thing, Mewtwo is captured by Roger. Believing himself to be a traitor, Pikachu believes that Tim shouldn't trust him anymore, and even shocks him to get away. Tim, Lucy, and Psyduck all go back to Rhyme City, where Tim needs to talk to Howard. Meanwhile, Pikachu is sadly walking aimlessly while singing Gotta Catch 'Em All, until he comes across a bridge. Not just any bridge, but the bridge that was the scene of the crash. He then finds a Greninja star and realizes that the crash was actually caused by Greninjas sent by Roger, and Mewtwo was trying to protect them. And because Howard had access to the hologram footage, he would have already known this. And Tim finds that out right quick as he walks into Howard's office and sees him wearing this weird-ass headset. No shit, there's Mewtwo, and then he transfers his soul inside to Mewtwo? What the fuck? So yeah, it turns out this was Howard's plan all along, to merge people into Pokemon, and Harry found out about it, but wouldn't take the money and shut up about it. After knocking down Tim using his brand new Mewtwo powers, he goes off into the city and releases a bunch of R-gas, which turns out the point of is to do just this, mix people into Pokemon. And this can only be accomplished by making the Pokemon enraged for some reason, and after the R-gas does just that, he merges everybody into their Pokemon, including Lucy and Psyduck. And Pikachu then arrives on the scene and sees this, and it's at this point where I realized what the plot twist of the movie was going to be, but if you haven't figured it out already, just stick with me. Pikachu, who has now figured out how his powers work again, begins the fight with Mewtwo and then escapes on a Pidgeot. Tim then wakes up and hears some banging on a closet behind him, and turns out it's Roger, tied up in there. But then there's another Roger behind him. Oh no, wait, it's the pink-haired lady. Oh shit, it's a Ditto. And if you don't know, Ditto is a Pokemon that has the ability to transform itself into anything it sees. And the Ditto does just that, transforming itself into multiple things, including Lucy, and attacking Tim. Meanwhile, Pikachu is still being chased on his Pidgeot, but the Pidgeot breathes in the gas, which causes Pikachu to fall onto a roof. Meanwhile, the Ditto has turned into a Machamp and knocked Tim to the edge where he's hanging off, and then turns into a Cubone and tries to knock him off the ledge. Pikachu then wakes up and uses Volt Tackle to knock Mewtwo through the building. Tim is then saved by Roger, who knocks the Ditto right out of the building. The Ditto comes right back up though, now a Charizard, until he's sprayed with R-gas by Tim, which neutralizes him. Roger as Mewtwo then takes hold of Pikachu and is prepared to destroy him, but right before he can, Tim severs the connection. Mewtwo and Pikachu then begin to fall, but Mewtwo saves them both at the last second. And then Mewtwo, using his magical Mewtwo powers, undoes all the damage done and turns everyone and their Pokemon back to normal. But there's one more thing to be set back to normal. Pikachu and Harry, that's right. Turns out Harry is Pikachu. It was revealed through a flashback that Harry, I guess, technically died in the crash, but Pikachu sacrificed his body to maintain Harry's mind. And the only way to repair Harry's body was through Tim. How? I actually don't know, but that's how it worked. But that doesn't explain why his dad sounded like Ryan Reynolds. Oh my god, his dad's actually Ryan Reynolds. Harry then gives Tim a ticket back home, but Tim decides to stay a little bit and throws the ticket in the trash. Tim then professes that he might need a new job, and maybe he'll become a detective, just like his dad, and just like his dad's Pikachu. So positives and negatives. First, positives. All the acting in this movie was very good. Justice Smith and Kathryn Newton, who I had not even ever heard of before this, both did very well in their roles. Bill Nighy, who was the main villain Howard, did very well as well. And as usual, Ryan Reynolds was hilarious. I really liked the CGI as well. I was afraid some of the Pokemon were gonna look really weird, but they all looked pretty true to form, and it was pretty well done with the animation and all, and the CGI and all that. As for the negative, a lot of the story didn't make any fucking sense at all, especially near the end. Like, according to Mewtwo, he needed Tim to help heal Harry's body, which is why Pikachu had to seek him out, but he didn't really explain why. Was Mewtwo through his psychic Mewtwo powers trying to reunite the bond between father and son because he felt like it? Like, that didn't make any sense at all. And another thing too, even though he hadn't seen his dad in a couple of years, wouldn't Tim have remembered what his dad sounded like? Like, if my dad sounded like Ryan Reynolds, I probably would have remembered. And also, I feel like the plot twist was just very boom out of nowhere, which I guess is fine because it's a mystery, but you had enough time to build it up a little bit more. Overall, though, I do think as a whole the story is fun. There's just, unfortunately, a lot of plot holes, especially near the end, which is very important when you're trying to, wrap the whole story up. And the ratings across the board that I saw a lot for this movie was 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, and I think I'm gonna have to agree with that. Again, love the acting, loved the CGI, thought the story was fun, but there's just way too many holes, and unfortunately so many holes that a lot of it does not make sense at all by the end, which is unfortunate because it was a fun story. That is going to do it for my review of Pokemon Detective Pikachu. Thank you again, James, for using your points on this, and happy birthday. Next month, we will start a horror month in October, but that is going to do it for me today. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to leave it a like. If you want to follow any of my social media links, they're all in the video description down below, as well as the names of all my patrons. Thank you guys for supporting me and my channel. I appreciate you guys. With all that being said, though, my name is Noah Taff. This has been my review of Pokemon Detective Pikachu, released in 2019, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.